Yo, what's up, guys? So today we're going to talk about two devices. We have the ROG Ally here and the new, not so new, Ayn Loki Max in the building today. So we're just going to do a quick comparison, run through a quick, rundown of the differences between these two devices, and at the end determine which one is the one to beat. I know we all already have our opinions, but let's just go through this. I think it's going to be an interesting comparison. So before we get started, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe, ring the bell, all that good YouTube stuff. You know we have to say it. Anyway, so as we get into this test, let's look at the first thing that just stands out, and that is the screen, the display on both of these devices. So they do have something in common, and that is, well, two things. That is the aspect ratio and the resolution. So these are both 16:9 1080p displays. The difference comes in with the size. So the ROG Ally is a 7-inch 1080p screen, and the Ayn Loki Max is a 6-inch 1080p screen. So technically the Ayn has a higher pixel density, but with the size of the screen, you can't really tell anyway. So as you're seeing here, we get a sense of the saturation, the contrast, the colors, the brightness. I will say right off the bat, the ROG Ally has one of the brightest displays on handheld right now. As you can see, it is slightly brighter than the Ayn Loki Max. But the Loki Max does have a pretty great screen, I must say. I have no complaints as far as the screen goes, as far as the contrast, the colors, the color accuracy. The Ayn Loki Max actually has a very great screen. The ROG Ally just happens to get a little bit brighter, and that does help, in certain scenarios. So I will say both of these screens are like A+ screens. Where the Ally really shines and takes it to like the S tier level of screens is with the refresh rate. The ROG Ally is the only handheld on the market right now that has 120 hertz variable refresh rate display. So this is going to give you 120 hertz, but of course if you're not getting 120 hertz, it has that variable refresh rate that's going to give you a smoother gameplay overall in general. Now the Ayn Loki Max is a 60 hertz panel. It is actually a very good display, but of course you don't have the benefit of having 120 hertz or that variable refresh rate that is going to give you a much smoother and more consistent gameplay across all of your games. So as far as display goes, it really depends on if you want the larger display or if you're okay with the smaller display. It really depends on what your preference is as far as like device size. So I'm gonna unplug these two devices now, and for the rest of this test we're gonna be running off of battery power, just so we can get a sense at the end of the battery life between these two devices. I'm gonna make sure this is on 25 watts, that's turbo mode, and this is also on 25 watts, as you can see here, both at 100%. So at the end of this test we'll get an idea of the battery life and battery drainage. They are both at 100% screen brightness, so there's no difference in the screen brightness or the actual power profile between these devices. So let's talk about the design. Now, the design between these two devices is very different, very distinct. Starting with the new kid on the block, the new but old. I'm going to tell you why I keep saying new but old later on. The new kid on the block, the Ayn Loki Max. It is actually a very good design in my opinion. It's pretty much no frills, no fluff, no extras. It's just you get your screen, you get your controls, and that's pretty much it. I added this stand on the back, so disregard that. The only thing that's really sort of that stands out is the RGB lights on the joysticks on the side, and then the RGB Loki logo on the back. But besides that, the I guess design is pretty much, it's just exactly what it needs to be. It's no frills, there's no extras, it's not really, gamer-esque. It's not trying to be anything crazy. It just is what it is. I do like the design though, because it's just a simple matte black design, nothing extra, nothing that's really, standing out. You may like that, you may not, but I do really like this matte black It doesn't really get fingerprints so easily. I do like the design, and I do like the finish they have on here. It's pretty smooth. It feels good in the hands, and the design is not really trying to win any awards, but it's not doing anything crazy where it may be sort of offensive. Now, the ROG Ally is a little bit more, I guess, gamer focused. Now, I have a case on mine. Let's take this case off here, and we will see the design is a little bit more what you would expect from ROG, from the Republic of Gamers. It's a little bit more sort of like angular. It's more sort of like gamer-esque. You know, it has like these sort of iridescent accents here. The strip on the back is iridescent. Even like the fans is in the shape of the ROG logo. So this is sort of more like angular, more like aggressive, more gamer-esque. So this is what you might consider sort of like a more gamer focused design here. So yeah, we even have the like ROG logo on the front here. So it's really leaning into that gamer-esque type of design. I will say that both of these designs, it really depends on what you like. I really do like the design of the Ayn Loki Max. It's very simple. It's very sort of like no extras, nothing that sort of stands out and tries to do too much. It's really not trying to do too much. It's just, here's the screen, here's the controls, and go ahead and have fun. The RGB does add your extra, you know, 10% frame rate, but other than that, the design is really just a simple handout, for lack of better words. It's just, it is what it is. So as far as design, before I go on to the next section, one thing I will say, I have to say about design is the ports. So I guess ports will be in this section. We have a single USB-C port on the bottom with a headphone jack and an SD card on the bottom, as it should be, and we have a USB-C XG mobile headphone jack and SD card. Now, before I get into a rant, I will say my SD card is one of the SD card readers that has died. Now, a lot of people are saying that the SD card is like hit or miss. I will let you know right now that my SD card reader did die, and I didn't even know it died until I was starting to do a video where I was trying to figure out, you know, what actually is what it takes to like kill an SD card. I was going to do a whole video. I bought a bunch of SD cards to test if some, you know, are more resistant to heat than others, and when I put my SD card in there to test it out, that's when I realized that my SD card reader had died. Now, I will say I never played any PC games off the SD card reader. I only used it for emulated games like PS3 and some Nintendo games and older emulated games, and never ran a PC game off the SD card. And I played my emulated games like a week prior, before I discovered. So anywhere from that time frame, within a week, it must have broken. But I don't know the exact moment it did, because like I said, I only use it for emulated games. But I will say, as of now, the SD card reader in my ROG Ally is dead. So take that to mean what it means, but it's definitely a subtraction for the ROG Ally, because I didn't play any intensive games off of the SD card. I didn't really push it. I used it maybe like a few times for just some emulated games, and then when I went to go do a test, I found that it was broken. Now, the Ayn Loki Max has the SD card reader on the bottom, as it should be, covered by this flap here, and we shouldn't have any issues there. Now, let's talk about the next thing from the design. Let's talk about the ergonomics. The ergonomics is going to be something that is going to be, a lot of people are going to consider when they look at a handheld like this. Now, the ROG Ally has never been my favorite device ergonomically, only because like it's pretty flat here on the back and doesn't have much grip for like larger hands. A lot of people say you have to just let it like sit in your hand, so you can't really like grip it, because it doesn't have much of a grip. So ergonomics isn't really the best on the ROG Ally, and love it or hate it, is not really my favorite in terms of ergonomics. It's actually like on the low end as far as ergonomics, and that's why I do keep a case on my ROG Ally, just to add that extra bit of grip, that extra bit of thickness, just so I have a better ergonomic experience. Now on the other side, the Ayn Loki Max actually has great ergonomics for such a small device. As you can see, this large grip here, it does offer a lot of ergonomics in relation to the actual body of the device. As you can see here, this large grip gives you a lot to grip as you're playing, and it does feel good. It does feel even more ergonomic than the ROG Ally. So I will say the ergonomics is a bonus point for the Ayn Loki Max. Even though it is a smaller device, it does offer great ergonomics because it has that nice large grip on the back, and that's something that you need like a case to achieve on the ROG Ally. So I do have to give bonus points to the Ayn Loki Max. Now, as far as ergonomics goes, where the ROG Ally does kind of strike back is with the third-party support. So I have these 3D printed grips here, a video on these coming soon, but I have these 3D printed grips here that allow you to snap it on the ROG Ally to increase your grip multiple times. So you put this on here, it just snaps on. It's just 3D printed, so it is plastic, but it doesn't feel like cheap or anything like that. Snap that on, and now you have this look at that beefy giant grip, and now you're really having a good time ergonomically speaking. So this grip is like night and day as far as ergonomics goes, and it does feel good. It does feel very solid in the hand. It doesn't feel cheap. I know it's plastic, but it doesn't feel cheap, and it is pretty much a game changer as far as the ROG Ally goes, ergonomically speaking. But of course, we can't really give it points for that because this is like a third-party solution. The Ayn Loki Max does win as far as ergonomics out of the box, but the ROG Ally comes swinging back with third-party support and a larger community, which means you're gonna get things like this. I actually have two different grips in two different type of designs. I'm gonna have a video of those coming soon when I do the I guess the accessory video I have planned for the ROG Ally. Now, so coming off the design, let's move to talk about the controls. The controls on these devices is pretty much, standard on every handheld. It's pretty much a screen with an Xbox controller, as you can see here. So starting with the ROG Ally, it has, the ABXY that does work. It does feel good. I haven't had any issues with any of these buttons sticking. I know like in early review units, they were sticking, but I haven't had any issues with the buttons sticking. Joysticks feel good. We have pretty large like Xbox size joysticks, so that is good to see. They're not whole effect sticks, but is yet to be seen if we're gonna have a widespread drift issue. But of course, we know without whole sticks that it is susceptible to drift. But the sticks are good. The D-pad is pretty good. Buttons, triggers aren't really my favorite. Love it or hate it. But the triggers, just the travel and the rebound, are not really my favorite feeling triggers on a handheld. But it is serviceable, and it's not like, a reason to not buy it. I think the triggers are serviceable, but just not my favorite on the handheld. We also have two buttons on the back that can be programmed, so that's good to see. You can pretty much make this whatever you want it to be, and that's amazing. I do love the back buttons on the ROG Ally. Now, the controls on the Ayn Loki Max are of course similar. You have your joysticks, which are actually slightly bigger, I must say. Just have my caliper here. We're gonna do a size comparison of the joystick. So the joystick on the Ayn Loki Max is 16.4, so 16.4 millimeters, as you can see here, 16.4, and the ROG Ally is actually slightly smaller at 16.1, so it's about 16.1 millimeters. So the ROG Ally joystick is actually slightly smaller than the Ayn Loki Max, and the joystick it's not really something that you can tell, but the joysticks do feel very good on the Ayn Loki Max. They're also slightly taller so they do come up slightly higher on the Ayn Loki Max. So it feels good in the hand. I really can't complain. I do enjoy the controls on the Ayn Loki Max. The buttons feel good. They are slightly smaller, but it's a smaller device, so they feel good. I will say the D-pad is sort of my favorite D-pad between these two. It's just a little bit more clicky, a little bit more tactile. The ROG Ally is a little bit more squishy. I do like the slight clickiness of the Ayn Loki Max. The bumpers are small but functional. Not my favorite bumpers, but I do like the triggers more than the ROG Ally. Just the travel, just the way that it's sort of angled here, it just feels better. And the rebound, just to me, feels slightly better than the ROG Ally. You see, the ROG Ally sort of is shaped a little bit different, and the travel just isn't my favorite on a handheld. So as far as controls go, they're very similar. I give an edge to the ROG Ally only because, okay, let me tell you, it has back buttons on the Ayn Loki Max, and Ayn, if you're watching this, I don't know why. This is the thing. So the back buttons can only be R3 and L3, so you can't map them. There's no software where you can remap these buttons built in. So this is just R3 and L3, and R3 and L3 is pretty much like the worst buttons that it could be, because there's so few games where R3 and L3 are the buttons that you want to press, because usually your fingers are going to be on the joystick and you want to press a button that's not the joystick, because you can keep your fingers on the joystick and still press a function button. For example, if you're in like a first person shooter, you can keep your finger on both of the sticks, and then if you want to jump, then I usually have like the back button to be like A or jump or slide or dash. That way I can still move, I can look, and I'm able to jump and do everything I need to do. It's like so few scenarios where I want to press R3 and then like another button that's like not allowing me to do it. Usually your finger's going to be on the joystick and you want to keep your thumb on the joystick, and you use the back button to do a function that allows you to keep your finger on the joystick. So Ayn, if you're watching this, please allow us to remap these buttons, because L3 and R3, I don't know whose idea that was and what game. Please let me know, Ayn, what game you were playing that made you think, I should make these back buttons R3 and L3 because it's perfect for this game. I want to know. I want to know what game you were playing when you made that decision, because I haven't played that game and it doesn't really make sense, because L3 and R3 is not what I want to press. It's so few games where I need those to be L3 and R3. I'm just saying. Rant over. Sorry, you guys. It's just these buttons are almost useless at this point, because L3 and R3 are used so infrequently when you can just press your finger on the joysticks, because your fingers are usually anyway. Anyway, I digress. Ayn, if you're watching this, make L3 and make these buttons something else, or let us customize it, please. Okay, so buttons is like pretty much neck and neck. I just have that one gripe with the back buttons. I do like the D-pad more. Now performance. Okay, now this is where I was talking about the old / new nature of the Ayn Loki Max. This is running last year's chip, the AMD Ryzen 7 6800U, and this is the Z1 Extreme that's based on the new 7840U. So this is like last year's chip, and I will say that because this device, if it came out when it was planned to come out, which is last year, it would have been, easy to recommend, because back then it was a great device, great size, it's very portable, and it would have been on the top of the line as far as performance goes. Now, of course, the ROG Ally is going to outperform the Ayn Loki Max, just because of the nature of the processors and the performance gains that we get with a full generation of processors. I will say, a lot of people are going to say, oh, the Ayn is old, it's outdated. It is quote unquote outdated, but it's not irrelevant. It does still perform great, and you can really push the device to perform almost as well as the ROG Ally, and that's because from the factory you can set this device to go up to 34 watts. Of course, your battery is going to die faster like that, but you do have the ability out of the box to set it to 34 watts. Now, I will say that the battery is slightly bigger, so it's 46 watt hours versus 40 watt hours. So theoretically, if you have these both on the same TDP, you should expect more battery from the Ayn Loki Max. So performance obviously goes to the ROG Li, and I could run some benchmarks for you guys, but it's like a waste of your time. We know that the Z1 Extreme or 7840U is more powerful than the 6800U, so you can expect anywhere from 10 to 15, sometimes 20% increase in performance in, you know, majority of all the games that are out there. I have tested it, and it runs the same as any other 6800U, but you do have that slight boost if you go up to 34 watts. Most of the other devices from the factory can go to 28 watts. Some can go to 30, but usually 28 watts is where you're going to start seeing diminishing returns. So if you go to 34 watts on this, you may get like 5% increase over 28 watts. But your battery is going to start, you know, going down like an extra 15 to 20%, you know, faster. So you get 5% performance, but you lose 10 to 15% battery. So at that point, it's not really worth the trade-off. But if you are plugged in, then yeah, by all means, run this thing at its full power, and you should see sort of like top of the line and top of class performance in the 6800U handheld space. But the ROG Li, of course, performs better. So we all know that. Just look up, you know, 6800U performance, and you can get a sense of what to expect from these two devices. If you want to see a detailed like performance test between these two devices, which is kind of just like making us all do extra work, let me know in the comments down below what games you want to see tested between these two for whatever reason. Like if you've never seen a 6800U device, let me know, and then I may consider doing those tests. Now, the last thing as far as the comparison is the battery. And like I said, if these are both at the same TDP, this should actually last longer because it has a slightly bigger battery, 46 watt hours, which is like 12% bigger, and has a smaller screen. So you should kind of expect more battery from this, but only like a few minutes, like 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes max on the Ayn Loki Max. So the battery is going to be very similar, but you can push out more battery life on the Ayn Loki Max. Let's just check our battery where we are now. So during this test, we're 94 on the Loki Max and 86 on the ROG Ally. So while doing this test, so about 20-25 minutes, the ROG Ally is to 86% and the Loki Max is at 94%. So that's to give you a rough idea of the battery life. This is going to be around 10 to 15%, not 10 to 15%, like 10 to 12%. So just expect 10% more on the Ayn Loki Max than the ROG Ally because the battery is around 12% larger. So if you're still here in the comments, drop a comment and drop a comment that says remap. Drop a comment that says remap, R-E-M-A-P, in the comments below to be entered to win a special prize, because I really want us to be able to remap these buttons. So comment remap if you made it to this point in the video so that you can be entered to win a special prize, because I need them to remap these back buttons. Now, for my final thoughts, the big question is which one to buy. Now, I don't know who is even considering these two devices, like, oh, hey, should I get the ROG Ally or should I get the Loki Max? I'm not even sure if that person exists, but if you are that person, it's really hard to recommend the Loki Max, only because it's no longer the top of the line as far as performance. It is still great performance. So you can get 10 to 20% more performance. Okay, it's not so much, but it is there for you to get in another device. But it's just that the wait time on this device is like it's unknown. I pre-ordered this device June of 2022, and it didn't get to me until like the end of July 2023. So over a year of waiting for this device. So I'm not sure if now it's faster, but it still says pre-order on the website. So if you go now and you have to pre-order, I'm not sure when you're gonna get it. Maybe a month, 2, 6, 12, no one knows. So you order this device, by the time you get it, there may be a new, better processor. So I don't even know if I can like recommend this right now, only because no one really knows how long this device takes to ship. And at this point, it's kind of unknown when you will get this device, if you even get it this year. I don't know. Now, the ROG Ally is, of course, a bigger recommendation because it has more performance and the price is also less. So this is $699. This is $775. So you're really, if you want a more portable device, then here you go. And I guess the only reason you would want this is if you want a very portable device. This has you covered at 6 inches, and also it has regular eGPU support. So this has eGPU support, just regular USB 4, where the ROG Ally requires the XG Mobile proprietary eGPU. But with that being said, it costs less, it has more performance, more support. So the ROG Ally is a high recommendation in my opinion. I will say with that dead SD card, it's like it's hit or miss, so it's a huge risk. My SD card didn't die, but the SD card reader no longer works, and I just discovered that a few days ago when I meant to make a video about the SD card. So take that as you will. So between these two devices, I don't know. It's like up to you. You want portable or you want more power? If it was me, I would just get the I would get the AOK Zoe A1 Pro. That's my device of choice right now. But with that being said, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Comment down below what videos you want to see. Let me know, and subscribe, all that good YouTube stuff. You know what to do, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.